Nazis viewed youth as the future of the New World. They were going to be future party members, mothers, and soldiers. Youth groups were very popular in the 1930s, with about 82% of 10 to 18-year-olds being in various Hitler Youth programs and bridal schools. This is Caroline, and she is enrolled in a Reach Bride School. In this school, German girls ages 14 to 18 learn how to be wives and mothers in order to secure a safe and prosperous future for Nazi Germany. One possible class Caroline could have started her day with in school is an interior design class. German girls were taught to keep a clear and clean interior style, only using German woods and products. Another thing young girls learned how to do is clean. Their houses were supposed to look spotless in order to please their husbands. Not only did they learn to clean their houses, but they also learned how to clean their husband's uniform and dagger. Another thing that was deemed important for German girls to learn is to learn how to cook. This was considered an important skill to please their husband and make them more suitable Nazi wives. Some of these bridal schools awarded mothers with crosses of honors based on how many children they had. German mothers who bore 4 to 5 children were given bronze crosses, silver to those with 6 or 7 kids, and gold to those with 8 or more. Newlyweds were also given a state loan of about $5,000, of which they were able to keep a quarter for every child they had, which is basically a bribe to procreate and produce more babies.
The purpose of these schools were to illustrate the Nazi ambition to control the population, whether this was publicly or privately. They helped women become perfect Nazi brides, and if they didn't graduate, they were refused a wedding certificate altogether.
This is Felix, and he is enrolled in an Adolf Hitler school. Adolf Hitler schools were for boys ages 14 to 18 and were meant to train students to become future members of the Nazi Party. Nazi youth groups like these became mandatory for children in 1936. Students attending these schools were separated into squads. They trained in military and academic studies, as well as bedmaking and personal hygiene. Squads were often put up against each other, and not one person passed or failed. The whole squad either passed or failed. This was to ensure that each member did their best to benefit the group. Most of the time spent in an Adolf Hitler school was spent training. Each child had to prove himself if he wanted to pass his final review. The people that graduated from these schools were seen as future elites of Nazi Germany. When boys turned 18, they were required to enlist in the armed forces or the Reich Labor Service. Propaganda caused them to be even more devoted to the Nazi ideology, even though the German military was defeated time and time again. While the German government wanted people to believe that these schools were good, they were not what they seemed like on the surface. Not all the teachers were properly trained, and the things taught were not consistent throughout all the schools. It was not until 1944 that an official syllabus was published for the school system. After the German armed forces surrendered in 1945, Hitler Youth, Adolf Hitler schools, and its other subunits ceased to exist. Allied authorities required young Germans to undergo a process they called denazification, which was to rid society, culture, politics, and the economy of Nazi ideology. They also learned things to counter the effects of 12 years of Nazi propaganda.